Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Talks with My Dude podcast. I'm your host, Nick My Dude. Today, I've got a special guest. Some of you may not recognize him right away based off of what you see on screen, but I do have Lucid, the Halo Pro. How you doing?
Hello, hello. It's good, Nick. Doing good, doing good.
That's good. For anybody who happens to not know much about you, do you mind doing a quick overview of kind of what you do and who you are?
Yep. I am Tommy Wilson, known as Lucid. Um, Previously I've played on orgs such as Luminosity, Envy, Reciprocity, and now previously Optic as a Halo professional. Currently in the midst of roster managing shakeup, but that is what I do.
Awesome, awesome. And for anybody who doesn't know, roster mania for Halo is just kind of like free agency in any major sport, but a little bit more fluid because esports is less structured in terms of how rosters come together.
A lot less structured.
I don't think NFL players are deciding who they're playing with based off Discord DMs, but you never know.
They probably get a little text here or there though, mid
Yeah, they
season.
definitely get some texts, maybe some. I swear I hear about Instagram DMs more than I hear about anything, which is really really interesting.
Then they start throwing away their $20 million deals, throwing up
Exactly.
another roster.
All right, so my first question for you is I know you came onto the scene in Halo 5, but when did you realize you wanted to compete? Was it during Halo 5 or you kind of like always had that drive when you played Halo to be better and then it took off in Halo 5? When was that kind of decision
Yeah,
for you?
yeah, it's pretty much the latter where I've always been good at Halo, always enjoyed competing in Halo and like just wanting to get better. And I think just in general, that's just what I like to do. But Halo 5 was definitely like the one where I decided I was going to go pro. And even then, I like while I was going pro, like in the midst of getting better, like getting that good, I still hadn't really like decided like, yeah, this is me going pro. I was just still so busy with everything school related, trying to keep up with social life, girlfriend, all that. Just then it eventually started to pay out. So by the time I started making money. I was like, well, this could just be my job. And so it developed in that way and developed further. Kept wanting to get better and better and pushing for like the wins, get on a team and all that, and just progress from an amateur to pro.
What was that realization like that you could make the decision to compete? Like, because I know it's not something that you just, it's not like an option A, option B immediately. Like, you come to that realization because you're like, oh, well, now I'm making all this money or I'm competing on lands. I'm getting team offers from people who will pay me to be good at a video game.
Yeah.
When did that kind of like when did conversation start in your head?
Yeah, I mean that's that's why I was saying it's kind of crazy, or it was like a moment, or just moments of realization once it became serious enough, like the answer and the solution was just it was just kind of there already, because I was able to maintain everything else in my life well enough to the point where just being a pro was not necessarily easy, but it was just like, well, I'm good enough to actually make some money, so I'm going to keep at it. And then, yeah, once I got that offer from Luminosity, because initially I got skipped over for Joey Trippy, and he had gotten picked up first. And I think I was in like some small talks, like a couple times here and there, with like L Town or maybe even Ninja. I don't remember at the time. I think it was mostly just L Town, but I don't remember if I talked to all of them at all. And then Joey got picked up, and then sometime after, like he left them, like a couple months later, and then they hit me back up, and I was just like, okay, this is it. That was the point where it was like I can actually go pro, and I'm gonna make a salary. It wasn't a lot, but it was still something. Going from nothing to something, especially for playing video games and playing my favorite video game at the time, that was just like the dream. So I was gonna take it on. I still just kept at everything that I was already talking about: school, social life, just making sure I was still staying like healthy and just keeping at it that way. And I just treated it like a job. Like I just clocked in, clocked out. I mean, clocking out's a bit harder whenever you're playing, competing,
Hmm.
but still have a schedule. That's how I always kept it. Just making sure I stay busy and staying active where I needed to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you competed for a little bit before you got picked up by Luminosity. Do you remember what your first LAN was and like what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, I remember bits and pieces of it. It was Vegas 2016. In November of that year, we went as Success. It was me, Trippy, Bomax, and Tire Iron, and we had actually been kind of like the up and coming like top. I think we were placing like top two or winning some of the online AM like cups that were going on at the time. So that was like the precursor of like, yeah, we're making some money. We're actually pretty good. We had swapped around like a player, I think, from I guess player or two, and then just kind of progressed from there. And then getting to the land was just insane. Like it was just the atmosphere instantly. I could just tell like it was just a lot of fun. Like everyone was there to grind, play some Halo, enjoy themselves, try to be the best. And I remember getting my first interview actually from Strong Side at that event. And I don't even remember exactly what we talked about, probably just like how was the series, all that generic interview type of stuff. But
Mhm.
it was just very cool to kind of have a moment like that very early on. I mean, that was my first LAN. So we actually progressed far enough where I was getting interviewed for a post match interview. And I mean the rest was history. But that tournament was definitely a blast. I remember waking up real early for the open days. I think I even played in the free for all too, so I was just participating in everything just to be there and play. And thankfully had the trip at least paid for, which not many people get to do. But again, we were actually pretty much a top team. We were a top AM team at the time. We had a lot of upsets too, so it was a really crazy turn of events at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I did some looking, and the internet says your first LAN was Chattanooga, 2050 Chattanooga. So somebody needs to fact check somebody. It won't be me.
Yeah, that was not my first. I think I was supposed to. That was 2015, Chattanooga.
It's 2016,
Oh,
so
2016. Yeah, I
same
think
year.
that was actually one of the first teams. I believe that was one of the first teams where I signed up, or we were signing up, and I was on a different team than that roster. And I think they like technically dropped me, but they didn't. It was more like a sneak leave at the time where I was like, yeah, I'm good to go. Like I'm down to go. And I think we were lining up a sponsor, and then the guys basically said that like they were backing out, but then it turns out that I think they ended up going without me. And I don't remember if it was like two other guys went without me. It was like a smart camper and cafe, or it was a smart camper and like Snoop J, and like that was our team of four at the time. And I don't really remember the details of what exactly happened, but I just remember a couple of those guys. I was like watching the tournament. I was like, wait, they're here, and being really surprised. But I was like, okay, that's fine. Because it was like one of those things where I think even then, like I was saying I was gonna go and I was down to go, but I mean that was my very first tournament. I think it was like that might have actually been like September. Do you have a date for the Chattanooga when
Let
in
me
2016 was?
let me Google it real quick because I was actually looking it up while you were talking about the other event. And I was like, well,
Yeah,
the internet said this, so who?
right. So that might have even have been like not necessarily the best timing for myself, but I still was planning to go. But then like I think once that happened and I was still playing on a even better team and performing even better online, then I kind of had decided that that was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to this November event.
Okay, yeah. So for to the shock of no one, the Wikipedia ability of Halo placings and events is not
Yeah,
amazing. Uh,
I believe
so
that.
one site has it listed as 2050 Chattanooga 2016 in September,
Yeah, I believe
and then
that was the date.
another site has you at uh, Emmy Vegas in November.
Yeah. So that Chattanooga was the September one that I was I think signed up for, didn't go to, and then the November one I definitely went to. Like that was my first one. I didn't actually get to compete in that Chattanooga one. I remember vividly actually I was like dog sitting for one of my mom's friends and I was like there all weekend, so I was watching the tournament on my phone while I was like doing that. So yeah, that was the experience of missing that one, but getting to go to Vegas in November.
Interesting. Well, maybe I can go help out our historians on Liquipedia and
Oh,
Halo
yeah.
esports fandom with that one.
Yep, get in there and swap it on out.
So you got mentioned a little bit, but what was like the pressure difference between playing, excuse me, for playing as a team that's just going and playing for an organization that's like sponsored you? Is there like a pressure difference for you, or was that just kind of like it was just a nice thing to have?
Um,
I
I
imagine
mean,
that
there it
changed as you got to onto Luminosity, onto Envy,
yeah.
Optic, and Reciprocity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I didn't really I mean, I would say it's actually fortunate that I didn't get to experience this, but I didn't really get to experience many lands as just, like, a fun go-to, like, I'm just here to play and have some fun on LAN. Like, right away, very first LAN was like, I'm going to try to win or win as much as I can and go as far as I can from the very beginning. Not necessarily representing an org, but just for myself, that's how it was from the beginning. And there definitely still is a difference. And I mean, the very first LAN was as close to that as possible, especially since it was my first LAN. So I was just having a blast. Like I was just having a great time, and I was mostly focused on just like still having some fun. But I still was. There was still like some amount of expectation, but I'd never really concerned myself with it too much. I just wanted to win. I just wanted to be better than whoever I was playing against. So that's still part of my having fun at the end of the day, and the end all be all of it. But the pressure and expectation definitely goes up once you start it becomes literally your job and you're representing a team and you're consistently online and putting up certain placements. And then depending on the team, such as like Optic with the last 3 years, like that's definitely just a different expectation, which I don't think is a bad thing. It just comes with the job. It comes with the layout of what you're doing. So just try to not let it phase me. Just try to not let it phase anybody as much as you can. Just embrace the expectation, embrace the situation, and just go with it, run with it.
Absolutely. I was just really curious because from an outsider looking in, I feel like playing for Optic would be extra tough. Uh, it's no secret this past year you guys got all second places,
Yeah.
and with the expectation for Optic teams is gold medals and winning. So I can only imagine like how much extra pressure that would be from not just yourselves because obviously you guys are competitors. You want first place,
Right.
but from like a fan standpoint and from a historical standpoint, it's like, well, this is a team that's supposed to be getting first places.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there's different levels and tiers of, like, how, storylines and certain things, certain setups, like, allow that to happen. I would even say, like, especially this last year for myself personally, it's like, it's not even really the org standard, it's just, like, the personal
mhm.
team standard of what we expect from ourselves, myself, and where we've been and where I wanna still be. I think that's kind of the expectation that gets set almost, like, I realistically, whenever the losses, the eventual seconds that came in, or just even if it was other years not getting second, not getting first, whatever the placement is, it's like a lot of people are still pretty understanding. There's obviously people who are just like, "Oh, you lost, like you're terrible." Like that's always going to be the case. Like people always just say stupid shit. But I would say normally people are pretty understanding and pretty supportive nonetheless. At the end of the day, and I think that's what it should be. I think you can get some shit if you're constantly getting blown out and constantly getting if you're a professional player getting top 12 or top 16 or something like that, then like that's definitely rough to be in and the criticisms I think are a lot more valid at that point. But when you start reaching that like top 4, I mean even when you're placing top 8, but especially like top 4, top 2, it's like it just comes down to the most small errors, the smallest details that make or break and, that's why it's like, at least I'm still performing at the top, but I wanna be obviously winning, and I completely understand the expectation that comes with that, and that's why I would welcome it. It's where I should be, it's where my team should be, whatever team I'm on.
Well, I look forward to seeing you lift some trophies this next season.
Yep,
Uh,
that's the plan.
that's the plan, and I will be at Worlds again. Oh,
Right.
hopefully. So
Yep, that's
I'd like
good.
like to see you lift one in person.
Yep. Wait,
Yep,
you weren't there for the first one, were you?
I was not. It was at like
Okay.
one of the. It was just not a great time for me, and I was really mad
Yeah.
about it.
Gotcha, yeah.
But
That's okay. We'll get
I'll
the
I'll
next
be
one.
there.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. So switching gears a little bit, let's get to some maybe a question you haven't gotten before. Which of your past teammates or yourself handles spicy foods the worst? Like, who can't have? Who
Who
thinks
handles it the
like
worst?
base mild is too much?
That's a good question. I don't really know off the top of my head. Because I like spicy food a lot. Even my body, especially over the last like few couple years, has gotten worse on handling it, but I still love eating it, and I love spicy food. I think Joey Tribby was pretty good. I think he handled his spice all right, but he was never going too hot. Maybe, oh my God, it's funny because I actually think I'm trying to remember. We actually had in Anaheim for whatever reason, we got really, really spicy chicken.
Hmm.
Back in 2022 Anaheim, and I think I'm trying to remember if Ola ate it. I want to say he did, but I really can't remember because I think we all got spicy chicken, and I think he was just like dying. I mean, Ola in general was just like kind of a plain eater, very picky eater as a whole. So I think he probably would be maybe the worst, but I really don't remember off the top of my head. I don't know. I haven't been around enough people, enough of my team eating like spicy food. But yeah, I think maybe him, maybe Ola.
Okay. Well, maybe that's the real secret is that the you eat spicy foods with your teammates, and that's how you get to know them better. See how they handle it.
It's a good litmus test.
Yeah.
Getting it out there.
Yeah. Well, can I eat? Can I eat with you with my spicy foods or not? Is gotta know. It's important.
It's got to be the spiciest foods. It's got to be.
Absolutely. All right. And if you could have competed in any Halo, assuming money no object, what Halo would you have preferred to compete in? Would you go back to competing like in Halo 5, or would you want to try your hand in like competing in like a Halo 1 or Halo 2?
Are you just saying in general or like as like a current day competition?
Assuming
Like if
like
I
the
could go back
support
to an
and
era.
everything, like you could look at either way. I kind of envision like if you could go back and play, but if you could have any Halo brought to like modern day graphical and technical standards and support, like is there one
Yeah.
that you'd want to try out more than the other?
Yeah, probably Halo 2. I think Halo 2 was just like because I loved Halo 3. I mean I loved all the original trilogy, but I think Halo 2 had like a good combination of just like high level skill, button combos being like something interesting but could be better, but was still like an actual extension of the gameplay. And I think Halo 2 was just iconic, especially for the beginning of the comp scene where like they even got like the TV deal and all that. Like that was just something that I think Halo 2 got for a reason. And I just think like at least competitively, Halo 2 is even more iconic than Halo 3 to some extent. I think Halo 3 was just an extension of Halo 2 that like why it was still so popular nonetheless. I mean, it was good enough to uphold itself, of course. But I think like mechanically wise, even Halo 2 to this day, I think still upholds better than Halo 3 does. Halo 3 is just like a little too floaty, a little too slow, even though I still loved it. But Halo 2 still kind of has that floatiness, but still being like very tight in my eyes. So probably Halo 2.
Okay. Well, I have the long-standing belief that Halo anything after Halo 2 would have been as maybe not as had as much longevity as Halo 3, but any Halo game that came after Halo 2 was going to have a massive install base because Halo 2 was kind of the game on the original Xbox for so long. So a sequel to that was going to be insane. That and
Right,
Halo 3
exactly.
launched with like Forge, which was new, and all this new stuff. So they could have put Halo 4 gameplay in there, and it probably would have done
Yeah,
like
you're probably
okay.
right. Yeah, you're probably right. I agree.
Some people don't like it when I tell them that, but
Yeah,
it's
I mean, it
just
still had to do the right things. It definitely still had to do the right things to maintain it, I think, properly. I mean, I guess realistically, Halo 4 even came after Reach which was not a good follow up, but I mean, those games still had those aspects, but then they still deviated far enough that it was just like, okay, this is probably not as much Halo as what Halo was to a lot of people for a long time. That's
mhm,
kind of like where the division developed at that point.
yeah. I mean, Halo 3 did a lot of things right outside of gameplay. It did like social features correct. Bungie was constantly rotating in the new playlists and the double XP weekends and trying out new stuff. So
Right,
that was always really cool. The Bungie favorites, I know people went crazy to try to be on Bungie's featured for the like screenshots and stuff.
right.
But a
Yeah,
lot of
there's
community
just a whole
stuff.
culture around it.
A lot of culture that I think is sort of I don't want to say completely missing because 343 does do like the highlights and stuff. It just doesn't
Right.
feel as community connected anymore because it's not in the game. I guess is my takeaway.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that's the case. Like, there just has to be built-in systems that kinda uphold that same feeling, where, like, people just naturally it's almost kinda forced a little bit at this point. Like, the 343, HCS, like, they want that in the game or they want that in the culture, they want that in the zeitgeist, like, people to look out for it, but it's not, like, passively able to come out the way I think it needs to, like it did in Halo 3, at least.
hmm Part of that I wonder is the lack of post game lobbies and visible rank on people's what do they call it now? User cards, panel. You know what I'm
Yeah. Right, yeah.
This is like Halo 3. You could see like, oh, this person's brigade colonel or whatever it was. I forget the names right now. I know they use like military-ish ranks. So
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just something that's it's so small. Halo's just a lot of it's lost a lot of small things that I think actually add up to be a bigger picture of, like, something that's actually important. Because I mean, that's the one thing, at least from a social aspect, that, like, everyone brings to the table is just, like, is their time. They bring their time, they bring, like, their I guess it still shows, like, their effort on, like, what rank you are, how much time you put into the game. Like, what kind of, like, results does that show? Whether it's, like, a really cool looking rank or cool armor sets or whatever. Again, it's just like a passive thing that gets lost, so then everyone just gets caught up in, like, a homogeny, like, everyone's just kinda the same. Even though, like, obviously everyone's wearing, like, different armor, a lot of different armor sets, there's no like, separation, and, like, separation in a good way of just, like, understanding, like, this guy's that, this guy's this, he looks like this way, he has this rank and accomplished it this way in a bunch of different aspects that I think is just really missed from Halo for quite some time.
yeah, because like I think right now the only thing we really have is the Watchdog for hitting 152 in Halo 5. I think it's Watchdog, and
Yeah,
then the Master Chief set for Hero.
right.
They don't have like an armor set for people who have hit Onyx every season or like an emblem or no, they have emblems now. They started doing that, but they don't have like a special coating or something
Right,
to like
right.
highlight your achievements. Or like the top ranked player at the end of the season isn't getting like a gold armor with a purple like secondary color or
Yeah,
something
exactly.
to set them apart. So I think that is often talked about. I know that you bring it up quite frequently on your streams that there needs to be a little bit more of that. So I'm really hoping that we see more of that going
Yeah,
forward.
that there just has to be incentives in games, and, like, that's the one thing that I think a any major developer, not even really just Halo, but I think Halo actually kinda does it the worst, where, like, games that are free to play should not strictly be, like, paying for any form of customization. Like, I think any good system, like, truly good system has, like, an earnable path, as well as, like, just create some small challenges. Like, even Halo 5 by the very end of it, which actually gave me some hope for Infinite, but funny enough, they got completely rid of the system of tracking, like, any, challenges,
Oh, the
where, like, in
stats
Halo
or
5
whatever it was. Yeah, I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
like, the commendation pages, whatever they're called, service record, um that, like, even by the end of Halo 5, they put in some I think they were, like, headshot challenges, I don't remember exactly, but I think they were, like, headshot challenges and got some, like, white and red pistol skins, some black and red, like, gold and red, chrome, like, that was stuff that I was like, "Oh, they're actually doing this. I can't believe they're actually finally putting something in like this in Halo 5, like, maybe this will be good for the future." And they just completely scrapped that idea, and then, like, even just the challenges and commendations were just gone, like, they just got completely rid of the system. So, again, it's just like gotta create incentives besides just playing the game as, like, maybe there's an argument like, "Oh, well, the game should just stand on its own 2 feet, like, the gameplay should be enough, like, that's what people come for," which is true, but it's like there's certain systems in play, and the most developed and the most consistent and the most loved games have a feedback loop, like a true feedback loop, not just gameplay wise, but again, you have a certain like status or title that is associated with your gameplay, your skill, your accomplishments, and even like again, you just give different people different opportunities. Like people who are going to do like lasso in like campaigns or whatever, it's like giving them rewards in game in multiplayer or in general, just like giving people rewards for wherever they can use their customization, wherever it can come out. It is a big deal. It really is a big deal, and I just don't think they realize that, which is just kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see that because I'm a Halo 1 guy. I didn't start with Halo 1, but I've kind of gone back and played it, and I can play the same, 8 maps with the same weapon loadout for hours and hours and hours and hours. But I'm an outlier on that. Like people want to get rewarded for doing something, oh, I got 40 kills in a match, do I get this cool whatever? Or I've gotten 10,000 rocket kills, do I get a cool rocket skin or something? And I think that is important. But Halo is kind of in that weird spot because, like, for Call of Duty, it has like the skins and stuff, but they
Yeah,
have I don't even know how many guns at this point, but a lot, a lot of guns,
yeah,
and you can grind all of those guns. There's a bunch of different guns you can do, and in Halo, it's like, how many kills did you get with your battle rifle? It's like, well, I get like 15 a game easy because it's my spawn weapon. I start with it, I use it the
right,
most. So I want it to be looked at, and I think that there are definitely solutions, and they had a solution sort of in Halo 5, especially toward the end,
right.
and it's something that's definitely missing. And I can agree with you on that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not just like, even if some things are gimmies, it's just certain things should literally be gimmies. It should just be the easiest layup of an opportunity for a developer to create something like that for just the player base. So the fact that almost everything, is um, bought, like practically 95, 98% of customization is just bought, I think is just a very large missed opportunity when it comes to Halo and just gaming in general. Again, like I mean, a lot of games have like events nowadays. Some games, I mean, even Halo still has like the exchange now, which wasn't there at the start of the game, but like you can earn some things that you just buy with in-store credits, which I think is fine too.
Hmm.
But when you just have a system that's really minimized, when it should just be passively always in the background, that is what I think is just a very large thing being missed out on. And I feel like there was something else I was going to say about that, but I mean, that's pretty much the gist. That's pretty
Hmm.
much the gist of it.
Yeah. Never forget $7 for the color red, even though you could get
Yeah.
basically the same red for free with the starting colors. I think that's always one that I highlight. But kind of
Oh,
steering
yeah.
back to these like more classic Halos and stuff, especially because you talked about playing in Halo 2. I kind of wanted to bring up like some MLG era teams. What team name
Mhm.
would you have like wanted to play under? We'll cut straight ripping out. Unfortunately, they are an organization. I mean, if you want to say it, I don't care. It's up to you. But there is, like a final boss, a carbon, triggers down, 5K. Like, is there any like MLG team name you would want to compete under?
Yeah, I mean, Final Boss is just like the name of all names when it comes to uh the original trilogy of Halo. Um, like competition pro MLG Halo at that time. So it's got to be Final Boss realistically.
I don't think you can pick. I think if you ask most people in esports, if you're like organizations aside, what team name specifically would you want to play under? I think a lot of people would say like a final boss or like a triggers down.
Yeah, they just have a ring to them. They just absolutely have a ring to them when it comes to just like the status, the symbol of like hearing that name. And if you're in a bracket hearing that, so it's something that would make a difference in terms of just like having a good ego about it, playing on that sort of organization at that time.
Yeah, what was it? They were in like it was more than 10, I think, finals in a row for final boss. So
Yeah, I don't
they
even
literally
know,
were.
but I
It was a
believe it.
lot. It was insane. I mean, Ogre One's average placing is like second, I think, or like just outside
Right.
of second. So I think that's just a really fun team name too. But like the prestige it comes with now, like it's an esports mythos at this point, especially
Yeah,
Halo
exactly.
mythos.
Exactly, 100%.
We're hoping the Microsoft acquisition of Activision and the MLG stuff means we can get some of that. Because you see that Halo was posting some MLG era like games on
I did
YouTube.
see that, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I got really excited because I thought it was like the whole series, and it was like we're posting one game on Thursdays, and I was like, well, I guess it's something.
It is something, I guess. Yeah, one game is pretty minimized compared to all of it, but I guess it's a start. I don't know what exactly the acquisition could very much lead to, other than maybe some archival stuff like that to kind of get unearthed, but it's still cool nonetheless.
I could go for some final boss merch at events, even if we don't see a final boss team competing.
Yeah, I
I
suppose that's true.
I wonder if people I wonder if orgs would be against that because I think Halo people would be really excited to buy that over like frankly like I would rather buy a Final Boss jersey than like an Optic jersey or a Space Station jersey because Final
Yeah,
Boss like a Halo name, not a org in
right. It
Halo.
just is Halo, plain and simple, pretty much.
Exactly. So continue on this little path we're on about the classics. Do you have like a favorite map mode combo of any Halo, or you kind of just love all of them?
Uh,
You really love that Solitude Slayer. I know. I'm sure that's your
yeah,
top
that
pick.
one. Yeah, that one's top one, so we won't mention it. But I mean, I think most of the classics I enjoyed a lot. I think something that sticks out to me the most is like Lockout Ball. I think is just like I mean, it's such a gridlock, like standoff style of like a gameplay of a game mode and map, but I did like playing it a lot. Even in H2A, whenever I was playing in that a little bit, um, I thought it was still just like a lot of fun. I thought there was like a lot of strategy that came into like making breaking setups. I mean, midship in general, I think is just like a lot of fun. Just very Halo at the end of the day.
You
Some of the
can't
other
go wrong
maps
with
are
midship
great,
flag.
but yeah, you really can't. Like that's why it's been in so many. I mean, there's been a lot of maps to be fair. I guess that have been in so many Halos. So I can't really say that. Um,
But there's always multiple pits. That like two base,
yeah,
two tower, kind of circular-ish map with a five flag. Yeah, it's been in a lot. And I think they're always like considered, if not the best, playing the most fun. Like people really enjoy it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one map that I actually did like a lot in Halo 5 was Coliseum Flag. Coli Flag was great. It's actually supposed to come back and with the Forge map this season. But I think that's definitely like a Halo 5 pick at least, and then otherwise it's still like a MIDI or a lockout.
Hmm.
Um, for some other throwback classics. I mean, Sank is good, but Sank is Sank. It's kind of like Pit, where it's like it's all right. It gets the job done. I just don't think it's like a really standout, like lot of fun to play. Honestly.
People like to play Sank because they like to get sniped and sit on Snipe Bridge. That's all it is. They have
Yeah,
Halo,
it's
they
kind of the
love it,
same.
and that's kind of what they want.
Yeah, that's pretty
I
much
mean, you
what
see
Pit
me
is
in your
too.
chat, in your chat. Like if they try to put Sank in here, I'm done. Like I won't even watch. I'm so
Yeah, I mean
tired.
it'll be a
I'm
snooze
so
fest if that were
tired.
to be the case.
I'm so tired of Sank Flag. I'm tired of Pit Flag, but I'm really tired of Sank Flag.
Yeah, and the thing is like, if they even put some of these, like, maps like that in, and then just kind of I mean, really just for any remake, just change the layout a bit, make it a little bit newer, add a different lane, or maybe add one flank underneath or around somewhere, and, like, that would drastically change how I think the map plays, probably for the better, honestly. But, it's still just, like, the same style of gameplay, the same angles, the same thing, just gets the job done, and, like, that's just kinda that, so
All right, you heard it, Tashi. Lucid wants a mongoose path outside of Sanctuary, like Nuketown RCXD route. You can get on your
yep.
little mongoose and drive around, and then we can play that in HCS. You heard it here first.
Put the Spark Laser in the game, put it right next to those mongoose, and then, let's run a
And
dual
start
route.
jousting.
Yeah.
A little double flank real quick on the mongoose. They won't see it coming. It's perfect. I don't know. I don't
Yep.
see any issues with that in competitive play whatsoever.
Yeah. Hire
I
me.
think
Get me in there.
let's get him in there. I think was it the Halo 3 Mountain Dew playlist had that version of Lockout that
Yeah.
green room wasn't closed and you could jump down into it.
Yep.
I think that was a neat change and they did this thing in the playlist that I would like to see for any attempts at putting a lockout style game or map in the game in the future, and just make bottom green not awful. They put an
Right.
overshield down there. I think putting something down there to force a team in control to go down there would be a good change for modernizing that map, because otherwise I really think that map is only good for ball.
Yeah, just very top heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I mean, they even had like in that map, there was like a back route tunnel that led from library to snipe.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Yeah, I
that's
remember.
exactly like an example of just like, well, that actually evolutionizes the map and pushes it forward a lot more. And that's just like one thing that I'm not gonna say it's like the end all be all, and that actually makes the map perfect, and we should be playing it absolutely. And but it's like one of those things that like I think it gives it more validity on trying it out rather than just putting in a one-to-one copy. I just don't think one-to-one copies are good. I think any sort of remakes in the future, this even goes for future Halos, if they're gonna remake something, like just don't make it the exact same. I think like I think it's good to like I think actually now that I think about it, like Truth in Halo 5 is a good example of a map that is obviously midship, but is still just different enough, even if it's just the structure, the layout is stretched out or a little bit bigger or like has a little bit of a different design. Like the car bubbles, for example, were not the bubbles that you had in Halo 2 and Halo 3 on midship that like Truth had. It was very different. Even the entire car side is pretty much different. I mean, like Pink 2, Pink 3 are kind of similar but a little different too, but it's just like that's even those subtle changes really make the map stand out as its own thing. And that's still what's needed is like being able to kind of bring back the old, but it feel new. It feel like still somewhat different enough, but it still has like the baseline like DNA of what everyone loved before. Because I just don't think things translate unless you have a one-to-one gameplay loop from one game to the next, which you really shouldn't. Then you shouldn't have a one-to-one map layout because it's just never going to be the same. Not really. Like you'll still have the same things, but like, that's the problem I have with Pit is, like, you're forcing Halo 3 gameplay on Infinite, on Pit Infinite. Like, it's just not it just doesn't flow well, just does not feel fun to play, in my opinion. So that's why it's just, like, it's kind of a big deal, I think, in the future for them to make those types of changes more effectively.
Absolutely. I think the only Halo games that could get away really with like close to one remakes was 2 to 3,
Yeah,
because they had a very similar, like you mentioned, Halo 2 was a little less floaty, but overall like they have the same kind of loop comparative to each other.
right, yeah.
And as much as I love Chill Out, my beloved Chill Out and Prisoner, they would play terribly in a modern Halo game, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
especially Prisoner. Prisoner would be like the most boring thing ever to watch, I think. Team would get top control and you would just see people getting fived off respawn. It'd be pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a mess.
Yeah, well. I'm going to take us back to content a little bit. What's your favorite part of being a streamer, YouTuber on top, like, and a competitor? Like, doing both? Because you do both. Because you
Um,
stream and, make your YouTube content. Granted,
yeah.
most of it's in service of competing, but you're still doing both.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the goal of it is so I can kind of be a little bit more mindless with it. There are times where it really does become conflicting where it's like I do want to just kind of do other content, but I mean, I'm still a competitor first and foremost, and that's mostly what I'm concerned about wanting to be doing. Um, so it's just kind of like I don't know, it's just a boost. I'm glad to have the content. It keeps people I think more engaged. I think that's the biggest takeaway and the biggest plus side of it all is just like people just enjoy it more and then enjoy the competition and everything that's surrounding it more. So I'm happy to have that be the case. So I think that that's my biggest plus side to streaming and content is just like I can keep doing what I'm doing and then people are just more engaged and then especially when I get to meet more people at like events and have interactions. Like people just really are trying to think of the word, but just a lot more personable, and like people just really enjoy like getting to talk to me, and I enjoy talking to them. Just goes back and forth.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't for your streams, because like I hang out on a couple of other Halo streams, but I hang out in yours the most by far. Self
Yeah,
admitted, I spend more time in your chat than I do any other. Um, I I have a strong belief that if you didn't stream as much as you did, or at least if you hadn't made as much content around Halo Infinite as you did, especially this past, we'll say, year or so, because I kind of stopped playing because if anybody remembers how bad the Xbox showcase was in terms of for Halo, because they showed nothing at all.
Yeah,
I'd like uninstalled. I didn't play for like 3 months. I played like a tiny bit now, but I still was hanging out your stream because I enjoyed like watching you one compete and two interact with people. But it was like Halo content I could sit there and enjoy. And I
yeah.
think if you weren't streaming as much, I probably wouldn't have gone to Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, that's still, I'm glad to hear that at least. And I've heard that at least a few times too from others. And that's like why I still do it. And why, like, I mean, there is a little bit of guilt too, because I would like to be doing, like, there's just a natural, I think everyone kind of feels this way too. There's like a natural want to be more involved in Halo or to Halo still be like a bit better and like feel that natural pull of like, yeah, I just want to be here and all the time. So at least the one thing that can keep people going is like the community aspect of it. I think it's still good. And that's the one thing I want to still carry on until, I mean, just until I'm done. That's one thing that I think everyone, I feel like other pros need to be more on top of. And it's not the end all be all. We don't make the, we're not make or breaking like how popular the game is as a broader aspect. But I mean, I will definitely sit here and tell you that I think like the impact that I've had, at least for competitively, is what keeps some people or a good amount of people still playing like the competitive playlist and the stream numbers or whatever. That goes for other players who are still doing the same and making content.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah,
yeah. I will say it's. I know it's the off season, so we'll see how this translates into the the actual season. But seeing people who usually haven't been streaming more. Stellar has been streaming a lot more in the off season. I don't know if that's going to continue to the season. I don't remember if that was something that happened last year. But you have Cycle who's been streaming a whole lot. Last Shot streaming a lot.
yep,
I think so. If we, I agree. Like we should have more professionals doing like at least streaming. Um, I think that would be really good for helping the community. I hope that they carry that streaming momentum into the season and then into whatever is next for Halo.
100%. Yeah, especially Last Shot and Cycle, like those two are still the youngest guys that are like hitting a stride right now that remind me of myself in like Halo 5, where it's like the opportunity is not as grand as it was at the start of this game, but it's just about, flexing the muscles, getting the motions locked in so that when the time is right, like you really can develop a community. You can obviously make some good money and like the um long standing benefits to the game and the scene as a whole, like just rise up. That's still the one thing that I think a lot of pros have just missed out on, where it's just like they're still playing plenty. Maybe not all the time, but it's like people don't even like it, even if like some of these guys are hopping on for like an hour or 2 hours a day, maybe even if it's not every day, especially right now in the off season, everyone's grinding a bit more during actual in season, myself included. But it's like just turn on the stream for like an hour or two. Some people do. I know like Booba has. Like Jesse does, I think, a pretty good job. Some the phase guys do a pretty good job. I think they got better about it later, like further along. Like Snakebite's been on top of it for years now. Like he's been really consistent. Rossi's usually been relatively consistent. I think he's kind of been off and on here and there. And he used to stream, and that also comes from like enjoyment too. So that's why I can't knock some people. But I mean, if again, some people are still grinding a lot and not streaming at all. That I think is again just like the biggest flaw when it comes to the greater health of the community. And everyone doesn't have to be the same personality. Everyone doesn't have to be the same player or whatever. But I think just still putting the POV out there is good enough to create some sustain and keep the scene going for the most part.
But I get it too. The not want to stream. Besides, like, I mean, you stream a lot of Halo Infinite, and anybody who plays Halo Infinite knows it can get really, really frustrating. It just
Oh
gets
yeah,
more frustrating when you're at the top end and you're used to like playing on land. So you're like, well, all three of those people wouldn't have been able to do that on land. They wouldn't even exist right. They would have been on the respawn screen.
right.
But
Yeah.
streaming is also is it's I don't want to say it's hard, like super hard, but if you're not like if you don't get like a good feeling or like the feedback, because I'm not an extremely extroverted person. So like streaming or
Mhm.
doing anything like that is like really hard for long periods of time. Like 2 hours is like plenty for me.
Yeah.
Um, but that's why I'm like focusing on this podcast and like wanting to bring people on and talk to them because this is I prefer this way more than trying to talk to the void and hoping somebody's watching.
Right.
So I understand that and like building is like and the building part is hard. But if you I it's gonna sound a little preachy, but if people started streaming now, by the time the next Halo game came out, they would be ready for the influx of viewers we always get when a new Halo game
Oh,
comes out.
yeah. Yep, that's exactly what I was just talking about with, like, Last Shot and Cycle, like, those 2 are doing it right now, so hopefully they continue the trend and it's not just, like, an off-season, like, burst right now, and again, it goes for everybody. It goes for every single, pro, and I said it before, and I'll still say it again because I think I'm the prime example, and some people even use it as, like, as a knock at times where it's like, "Oh, like, I'm the one getting, like, this attention or that," and it's not, like, a very not, like, something I hear a lot, but I know some people feel that way, some players even feel that way, where it's like, I mean, to be fair, as long as you're putting your voice out there more consistently and presenting yourself more consistently, that's what will happen. Like, you will get, just some more attention, good, bad, and everything in between, and it's just good to be a part, like, to just be more associated, to be more integrated. Like, it makes a difference, as a whole. And again, like you were even saying, like, you don't have to be, whatever I'm doing. Like, I'm mostly just streaming, take those games, take the POV, just put it on YouTube. Pretty cut and dry for the most part. Sometimes I do a video. I'd like to do more. And I've always done some like coaching, some longer form content. And I'd like to do more, but it's like that's not mostly what I do because it's like the day to day that matters the most. But like everyone's day to day can still be a bit different and still be whatever they want it to be. But you could still put something out there for most pros and most players as a whole. Again, like even in my mind, like whenever I'm talking about this, like thinking about like I'm trying to think of maybe some examples, but there's just no like there's not many, I guess, like homages or like quick scopers that were in like people making montage like that style of content in Call of Duty. Like we don't have those types of personalities in Halo like at all.
That's
And
since Campy started kind of
yeah,
took a step back. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like he was like really one of the only ones, but he was very popular. Like that was the thing. Like he was very popular. And I don't know if it's just because people just don't really care to be, or some people just think like, oh, why bother, or what exactly. But I definitely think like that is just like something that pops in my mind as like there's just different styles of things that could be building Halo up more that people are not even trying to go after. And I hope changes more over time. Like I hope to see more people try to make us like some standout content in Halo. And I think we're slowly getting there. I think more people are kind of realizing that, but only time will tell, really.
it always feels like it comes a little late into that Halo game's lifespan that we get
Yeah.
some stuff happening. And I've talked to a few like Halo players and Halo professionals about like making content and like unfortunately making content for Halo can be a little difficult, especially for like a professional level player, because it's like, okay, I can post a map breakdown, but everybody's posts map breakdowns. Well, I can post some cool stuff that I do, but it usually boils down to like just gameplay. And I was like, well, you could theoretically like showcase some cool Forge maps, but that takes time away from you playing either matchmaking or going over your VOD. So I can see why some of that kind of content would be less appealing because now
Right.
you're detracting from the practice that in your opinion you need, and this is your y'all's job, your livelihood. So like I
Right.
understand that stuff. I understand. So
Yeah. And
definitely.
I
But do you?
mean, I
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead. No,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna say that like at least with the content is like I think some people just get like people just get turned away internally because they don't see results right away, which is something that does bother me a bit. And that's just something that people have to get by and have to get past. Like some people need to realize like you just got to start from square one. Like not everyone, even though you're a professional Halo player, maybe even if you're like hovering around the top, like, that doesn't mean that you're gonna come to, like, thousands of viewers on a stream, or you're not gonna get tens of thousands or millions of views on a video, YouTube video. That doesn't mean you don't do it. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like my path is, I think, one to utilize where it's like I'm making better money, I'm getting better views, but even then, like, obviously, it's not where I want it to be, but it was even lower during Halo 5.
Mhm.
And it's just about setting a tone, setting a pace, setting a standard for yourself and your content that it will grow over time as long as you're genuine about it. Like, it will grow over time, and that normally leads to success as a whole.
Absolutely. So do you have any upcoming content you wanna share or any content you're maybe thinking about making? I know we're in the off season and then so you kinda get a little bit more time. So I was
Yeah.
just kinda curious.
I mean, I'm just trying to get back into streaming a bit more this month, into January, and I mean, I was thinking about maybe doing some, like, challenges. It's not like thinking of just, like, some standard challenges, even though it's, like, not the most developed thing, it's a little bit basic, but, I mean, I was just, like, watching some other YouTube video that just like, "Oh, this would be kinda funny." I was, like, thinking of, like, I've never done it before, I don't know how I don't know how great it would be, but it was literally like a drinking challenge for
Oh, yeah?
matchmaking and doing something like that. It's, like, nothing too crazy, but it could get kinda ridiculous if I'm drinking on stream. I was, like, thinking of, like, making a challenge run of, like, matchmaking for a Friday or something like that. Not making it, like, a consistent thing, but maybe doing, like, a challenge like a Friday challenge type of, standard for content or something like that. Like, I just think that would be kinda cool to start bringing something like that back, and just bringing back old content that honestly was just good for Halo 5 that I hadn't really gotten to do with Infinite. Like, I really did like doing some, like, VOD reviews for people. I just think the systems now in place are just not as easy to do as it used to be, and that
Yeah.
kinda makes me sad because like, I could just, like, pull up a link, instantly pop in to the game, and go from there like I could in Halo 5, and that just made it so easy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
now it's just, like, an extra step of just, like, I think you have to add people, and then you have to, like, scour through their, like, bookmarks, or you have to make sure they bookmark it in their own profile or something like that on, like, the game itself, and it just makes things, like, weird to make so that's just, like, again, something so small that actually impacts, like, larger scale content and, like, longer forms of things that, like, I would like to be doing, but
It
things
didn't
just
help
are
that
harder.
it doesn't help that theater was broken for
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it's still not in a great place, but it was really, really bad before.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
So,
It is still not good.
I need you to go and get, Mitch's gameplay from the one time you streamed with him. I remember that stream so much because you watched him run this I think it was, like, top A sandbags, and he did something, and you were like, "Mitch, what are you doing?" And you're like, because you couldn't find games because that was when ranks were, like, really weird, so you were playing with
Yeah.
him, and he was like a diamond, and you were like, "What are you doing?" It was really funny. Um,
I do actually remember that a little bit,
you're like, "I can't play with you anymore for my own mental health and for yours." And I was like, "Oh, man." I'm sure he's gonna love that I brought that up.
yeah. It's okay,
Uh,
Mitch, don't worry about it. We're
yeah,
past that point,
yeah,
it's okay.
you're still the greatest. What's your favorite copy pasta or bit from chat?
My god.
Because you got some
Trying to
good
think
ones
off the
in
top of
there.
my head. Um, the ad one is pretty good. I think that one's actually
Mhm.
pretty funny. Just because that is directly tied to, like, obviously I need to run some ads, and some people obviously complain about getting them, which I get. But if you're watching on a free platform or you're not, like, contributing, like, you're just gonna get advertised to, it's what happens. And then, like, seeing that copy pasta just cracks me up about taking, like, it's
I
like night
steal that copy
shift or
pasta. Yeah,
yeah.
it's the Night Watch Oath or something.
Yeah.
I've
No, I
stolen it and
remember
posted it in other chats when an ad pops up.
I actually didn't know where that was from. I thought it was just, like, some random copy pasta, and then I actually watched Game of Thrones last year, and then like, I realized that was, like, the oath. Once
Yeah,
I
that's
finally
so
came back to the
funny.
stream and saw that again, I was like, oh my god, like, I actually know where that's from now." But that one cracks me up the most, I think. There's a few others. I mean, some of, like, the hair or, like, the posture, like, settings or whatever is kinda funny.
Mhm.
I just love seeing that every once in a while. I feel like there's some other ones that I can't really think of off the top of my head, but those are the ones that I can instantly think of.
Well, if anybody from chat is watching, they're gonna know my favorite. My favorite is when anybody talks about money or anything like that. Um, or if they mention formal, the first thing I'll talk about is like, man, I can't believe formal makes 12K a year.
Dude, yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
no,
my favorite
I
because
always see that.
there's always somebody, there's always at least one person who reaches out in chat, or like I've had a couple people DM me, but I've had mostly in chat where people are like, "There's no way Formal only makes 12K a year," and I'm like, "No, I do his taxes."
Just
I
long-standing tradition at this point.
well, it started back in like Halo Reach with a bunch of like
Oh,
Reach
yeah.
people making jokes about, because back then like Halo money was nothing.
Right.
Uh, I'm gonna share this picture I took of chat with you in Discord DMs real quick. I just want you to see. So this is, I don't remember what I was responding to. Somebody called me, said I didn't make money or something. So I brought in my favorite copy pasta. I make 12K a year, like Formal. So I got money. First time chatter. He makes more than that. It's just so good.
It just gets everybody in between.
It's, so that's my favorite like bit. The copy pasta I think is the ads one. I agree with you. I think that one is just iconic to your chat at this point, even if it's from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. No, it's closely associated. But
Closely associated.
it's actually more prevalent now than ever because I actually had to turn up I really needed to turn up my ad time, unfortunately, this month. I mean, it'll probably just stay turned up now for maybe the rest of the time, but I tried not to max it out. I just kind of set it to like a more medium standard, but that's going to be a good bit higher than where I've always had it.
Well, if you guys get Twitch Turbo or whatever it's called now, uh, Lucid will get the ad revenue money, and you don't have to watch the ads. It's crazy. Or you could
That
subscribe.
or
It's cheaper to
subscribe, yeah.
subscribe. Yeah,
That works too.
yeah. I watch a ton of Twitch, so Twitch Turbo is what I go with on top of like a subscription. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you get the double dip from me for ads. I was gonna watch them anyway. I don't know. I hope so. That'd be cool. But
I don't know. It's probably just like you're the one ad read, so it skips you for the one time for
dang.
either one. It probably just chooses either one.
All right, well, we're closing up on an hour, so I'm gonna kind of speed round just a little bit more. What's something you want to see from the next Halo game? Like, what's something super important outside of being feature complete? Because that's, I think everybody is like, well, it has to be finished.
Right. Yeah. I mean, feature completeness is definitely the one of the biggest aspects. Like what we were talking about earlier, I think the social community integration passively in the game is one of the biggest aspects of making a successful Halo at this point too. Like I said, just good UI that gets you involved, gets you seeing your players, your friends, everybody seeing their customization, what they're doing, and like all that. I think is just like a big deal, big part of the game as a whole. I'm trying to think of maybe something more gameplay related, but gameplay related, I think personally like we still need to be more like I don't know. I just think there needs to be more of an evolution development of like classic Halo. I think there's like Halo being what it is right now with Infinite, I think is okay. I think it's passable, but I think Halo shouldn't be passable. It needs to be more innovative. And I think innovative even in a current setting of current modern shooters. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have sprint, but I think there are more avenues to even have sprint negated or not be as big of a thing and be more Halo-esque while like boldening other gameplay aspects of gameplay of the gameplay loop. Even like the Omni movement, I think is a good example of like what COD has that like we could actually probably take sprint out of the game and make it so that you're essentially sprinting everywhere again. And so like you can still slide. Like if slides are in the game, I think it's fine. But even taking sprint fully out and almost making it more of that classic Halo feel, but you can slide and then maybe, maybe we still keep curb sliding or whatever, but it would keep it like an always gun up type of feel with Halo again and still keep the speed that people are looking for. I feel like again, we need some sort of consensus, some sort of consolidation with that aspect in Halo. Like I think Halo really needs like that defining factor in its gameplay while still feeling like it's not just something that's old. Because even Halo 2, I feel like Halo 2, if it had modern graphics, modern remakes, whatever, truly, and it had its old settings or its old mechanics, like I think that game would probably play really well right now in a modern, uh, with a modern audience. Um, and that's it's a game that's 20 years old now. I think Halo 3 is aged terribly. in terms of like its speed and how it feels. It still like has the classic look and the classic nostalgic like association with it. So I think when people go back or people play, it's like okay. But I just don't think it's something that like you can stick with for too long. That's why I think Halo 2 in my mind is like almost more the gold standard. Um, but yeah, it's like I don't know. I just don't think you're gonna get I don't think we're gonna get farther pushing what Infinite has, or like going back to like what Halo 5 was with like pushing the movement that way. I think elements of that could be there, but I think Halo should be Halo with those modernizations.
Well, you heard it here first. Lucid anti-sprinter. No, I'm kidding. Uh, I love it when people tell me like, what am I supposed to do if I don't sprint? I was like, well, what if you were sprinting all the time? What if you
Yeah,
were just fast? Just
yeah. I
give me
mean,
a wall kick type thing where I can, or a double jump, or like a really good air strafe, and I promise you, people will find some really cool movement tech
people
with
would
the
just
way
enjoy it.
Halo.
I think they just don't realize it yet. That's like the problem.
Well, if they made the guns also a little more difficult, like the Halo One pistol. I'm sorry, we're not gonna get
Yeah.
on. We're gonna. That's a little off track.
I was
Let's
about to talk about that though. I was gonna mention that and
yeah.
just like how like I do think because people complain about like oh games are too sweaty nowadays. People in general say that
Mm-hmm.
for every game, but Halo included. But like the thing about it is like the games in general now are too easy. Like they just like hold your hand, they baby you. That's why things are too sweaty is because people who should not be good are consistently good because of aim assist, because of like, maybe it's a class or a weapon in a different game, and that's a whole different conversation. But at least for Halo, it's like the weapons are easy to use. And like the thing is like if things were harder to use, some people will just get, I won't lie, like some people will just get shit on. Some people get blasted. But it's like they'll get blasted enough to the point where they should be playing with other people of their level and skill. And then it's like if they actually make meaningful effort, or if you're meaningfully better than somebody, you are going to consistently be like playing better than somebody. And that's like the one aspect of I think gaming in general that it's been missing, at least in shooters for a while, at least controller shooters, because I feel like that's like the biggest like skill gap as a whole with with like CS or Valorant. It's like there's no there's no assistance. There is no really I feel like that sort of gap. And I think that's why those games are so popular because like there is just a natural feel of like I literally can't aim like this guy right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna keep playing better. I'm gonna try to get better. And then eventually you learn some you learn some new skills, you pick up on the things that you gotta do better and you get better and then you start beating out those people. And like that's still the case. Like there gold players are not obviously shitting on me in Halo and like they're probably missing and windmilling everywhere if I were to play somebody like that.
Yeah,
But
there.
like
I
there
five
should
you
still be
constantly.
levels
What do you
to
mean?
it.
I've never missed
But
a five on the Lucid
ever,
ever.
not once.
That's why I don't
But
compete. It's so that everybody else has a chance. You know.
thank you for your service, Nick. I appreciate
Absolutely. Me and Kratos, both of us.
that. But I really do think that like with meaningful, impactful movement and options in gameplay, and then just making the gunplay a little bit looser, a little bit harder to actually shoot, then like I don't know. There's just like a certain level of consistent perfection that you see across levels. Like it really starts to develop, at least like say for Halo. Obviously we're Halo.
Mhm.
Um, once people reach like that diamond level, like those guys are still shooting similarly as even I am. Like I am shooting, I'm hitting no scopes. I'm hitting like no aim assist, no scopes, way more than those guys probably ever will. But they still are hitting like the bandits, the BR shots, like even the commando shots, like damn near similar to me. Maybe not as fast as I am, and not nearly as accurate all the time, but it's still close enough to the point that like somebody being just a diamond player should be nowhere near the level that I am. And I'm just gonna say that outright.
Why you gotta take shots at my ability to no scope people like that? I'll
Because
have
that
you
I
know.
go ahead. What will you have me know? Let's hear it.
I hit no scopes at least a fraction as consistently as you. Thank you.
Well, I do understand that. As I said, like you're still gonna hit them. You're just not gonna hit them as much as I am. But that at least is like
That's
the
the point.
only. Yeah, that is the only difference right now in Infinite gameplay. I think is the no scopes on snipes. Like you will just see some people who literally cannot hit no scopes, and some people who are always hitting them, and some people who are hitting headshots more than others. Like that is like the actual difference that in the gameplay that should be meaningfully put into every aspect, but is not even, like, touched in any other regard. It's only on like, the S7s.
Yeah,
And funny
exactly.
enough, a lot of people are hitting no scopes nowadays with
Oh
that,
god, yeah.
at least at a higher level, people are hitting them, but I think that's just kinda getting used to, like, the gameplay, like, people just finally got used to understanding, like, the loop of,
How people
how it is,
move,
but, like,
sliding,
that's still
and
something yeah, that's still something that I can respect at least because it's like, well, that's a no scope, like, no aim assist, no scope. Like, sure, that's still not an easy shot to hit normally. So, sure, that guy is actually pretty nasty or hit that shot, whatever. But that sort of logic should be applied to a lot of other things, gameplay-wise.
yeah, I think, 'cause like I said, I'm a CE, I love Halo 1 a lot. You should see how many people's heads, metaphorically explode when I tell them that when you're strafing in Halo 1, it affects, like, how you need to aim at people,
Yeah,
especially if, as they get really far out, and they're like and it I'm like, "This kinda thing, y I don't mean, like, close range, you strafe left, your bullet's gonna, like, fly to the left type thing, but something to separate a normal shot, a good shot, a great shot, and a pro shot, for example, and there's tons of other stuff to go into it, but like that kind of thing would be very valuable, I think, to the enjoyment of like Halo as a whole.
100%. 100%. And I think, like, casual players, once you start hearing about making the game harder, they think like, "Oh, well, you're just a pro player and you wanna shit on everybody," or like, "What about the lower level guys?" It's like most people, I think, will actually find their pocket more enjoyable. Like, you're already in that pocket, but I think you'll find the pocket more enjoyable when you can understand that, like, you are like there's more accountability, I think, once you start actually allowing that, in the gameplay loop, like, the dance of it, where, like, you start to understand, like, "Oh, I'm just literally missing, and it's not like the other guy is just a god, and or he has the better timing or whatever." Obviously, timing matters, but it's like it's just raw, "Oh, I can do this better, and that guy did it a bit better than I did." And so, like, I'm going to keep improving on that. I think that's, like, the one thing that really makes or breaks the enjoyment aspect of it that I just don't think people realize, like a casual player realizes.
Yeah, last thing I'll say on it is it kind of takes when everybody can shoot 67 65 75% with the bandit like when that's including like pre-firing and everything. Uh it takes away that ability for somebody with like a really good shot. Um I dog on Halo 3 a lot, but, like, Roy had a better shot than a lot of people in Halo 3,
Yeah,
and so he could, like, take over the game with just his battle rifle. You don't
right.
see a lot of you can see it sometimes, but you don't see anybody in Halo Infinite, like, their bandit takes over the game. They don't talk about your bandit being better than
Yeah,
other people's. It's your sniper, your shock, it takes
yeah.
over the game.
Exactly, and it's, like, not even really the shots that are being hit sometimes, it's, like, just how, like, "Oh, I'm able to lock down an angle." It's more like timings, like, in this game, which I just don't think is, like, a actual good judgment of skill. Like, that's just what jiggle peeking has been in this game too, and I don't wanna get into the full depth of talking about that, but,
I know
like,
you love
that's
it so much.
yeah, that's literally, like, just a it is a false sense of security of a skill gap in terms of just, like, that is not actually a true skill. Like, it is just it's there, it is something. Like, obviously, if someone can hit a button, you know, 0.05 ms faster than me, then sure, like, they get rewarded, but that shouldn't be the end all be all when it comes to, like, actual skill expression,
Mhm.
in a game. Like, there's a certain amount of being like, a certain percentage faster than somebody, but when the percentages are so minute, like, that difference should not be the defining factor of, like, "Oh, well, that guy just outright wins the gunfight because he was able to change the timing of the gunfight by that much." Like, if someone was like, if I had, like, a 300 ms response time, which that is really slow, and somebody had it 100 ms, like 200 ms faster than me, then that's like, "Oh, that guy is just that much better, like, that much faster, that much more
Mhm.
reactive." But we're talking about, like, again, going from, like, 100 or 150 or 125 to, like, 120 ms, like, response time, and even then, it's, like, not even that. It is just pure raw chance in a lot of aspects, and, like, again, that just takes away from an actual skill expression that should be in the game.
Also, if you added the thing I was talking about, the Halo 1 pistol, you wouldn't actually be able to do that because some of your shots would just go straight in the wall. as you
Right.
try to strafe back into it. But
Yep. And as
you
long as it's
kind of been
predictable, then
oh yeah, absolutely. So you've been kind of talking about like the skill gap and stuff. And I struggle with this, and I'm really curious to see what like someone who's really into Halo because you played a lot. You're obviously because you're professional. But what's
yeah.
have any other shooters kind of scratched that competitive itch, or like do you think if you were like, oh, I'm not a professional Halo player, but I really love how Halo feels, is there another competitive shooter that scratches that itch for you, or is it just Halo?
For a while there hasn't really been one. I think for a little while Apex used to. I mean, I think even I still haven't played in a while, but I think Apex has really tight gunplay. And just feels pretty good to play for the most part. Trying to think what else really. I just really haven't been playing that much of anything else when it comes to a shooter.
Hmm.
Nothing really has scratched that itch because it's like I haven't really tried even Call of Duty lately. I
No,
haven't really played
it's Call of
Apex.
Duty.
But I mean, I always used to like playing a lot of COD whenever I was growing up.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I do want to try out Black Ops 6 just to kind of feel it out because I know a lot of people actually were enjoying it. But yeah, nothing else really has kind of scratched it. I mean, I've played a little bit of CS, a little bit of Valorant, but if I'm trying to play with controller, like that's just not a thing. Like you're just not gonna do that.
Hmm.
Those games are fun to play though. I do. Like, that's why like I've played enough to realize the depth and the skill gap of just raw aiming and skill and response time that comes in with like playing on mouse and keyboard, playing those games. And the difference between hitting some leg shots and hitting that one taps with like a headshot, like it's a huge difference. So that's why it's like I can at least speak with I think some uh I
Understanding.
don't know, some agency over that in terms
Yeah.
of like bringing that skill gap or a skill gap like that to Halo. But yeah, nothing else really gets it. Not much, not lately.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I'm like, I don't really feel like playing Infinite, but I really enjoy Halo's gameplay loop. I want to play Halo. Basically, it's like
Yeah,
I play
something
another
like it.
shooter. I play another shooter, and I'm like, I just want to play Halo. I just sit there and just be sad about it.
Yeah,
So I'm really
that's kind of
hoping.
the loop. It's kind of the Halo loop.
Yeah, Halo's had its claws in me since '01, and it's not letting go.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view. Um,
right,
so it's been a lot of fun to play Halo. Uh, Unfortunately, the devs have put us in some weird spots, but
right.
I do enjoy watching you play Halo. I'm like, man, I want to play like that. I will never play like that because I'm not putting in 8 hours a day, shooting bots and then going into matchmaking and then going to scrims and then going back into matchmaking. I think I would um, cease to exist.
Yeah, I mean, it still takes a lot of effort for sure.
I play like an hour and a half, and I'm like, maybe I don't enjoy this.
Yeah, I mean, Infinite's a hard one to put a lot of time into, especially right now. Now that we're 3 years into the game.
Mhm. I can put 8 hours into a poor port of Halo One and Halo Two. I can't even put 2 hours into Halo Infinite in half the time. So
Yeah, I get it.
yeah. So uh, when we obviously we know there's a Worlds next year, and unless something horribly goes wrong, you're going to be at Worlds, uh, competing for that top spot. What Yu-Gi-Oh card do you want to sign at the next Worlds?
Dude, I don't even know them. Like I don't know the specific names
All right,
really.
I'm gonna send you the wiki, and you're gonna have to find one that looks cool. I don't care if you know what it does. It just you have to be like, all right, this one looks
Just gotta
cool.
look cool.
Yeah,
Got it.
got it. Actually, I'll
Got it.
bring
Got it. Got it.
I have some ideas already. I'll bring something.
Yeah, bring like five. Bring five of your like what you think are the coolest,
I'll,
like coolest ones.
I have a set of four actually that is my
There
favorite.
you go.
I'll
Four.
get a set of four and be like, these
That'll
are
do.
the Lucid Yu-Gi-Oh cards. No one can. By the way, I don't know if you saw it, but did you see Trippy's face when he saw the blue eyes that you handed him?
I did not know.
Oh, he like if I had a camera, he would have had like Trippy Pog. Like he was like the full like his he was so you could see in his face. He was like, "There's no way!" So excited. Type.
Yeah. No, it was cool. It was cool to do that.
Yeah,
I was really happy to see that and sign that.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you being willing to do that and all that good stuff. And I appreciate you coming onto this podcast. I know I reached out and was like, "Hey, like I get this is much smaller than what you're used to, and this would be a much bigger benefit in terms of viewership and content for me than for you. But I would really appreciate if you came on and you took the time to come
Yeah,
onto
of
this
course.
podcast and chat and give your thoughts and let me pick your brain for a little over an hour. But before we get
Yeah.
to the signing off part, do you have any other news or announcements that you'd like to give out? I know we kind of talked a little bit about your content, but I don't know, maybe you're like planning your own Halo Championship series for all we know.
No, there's not really too much to add with anything like that currently. Hoping roster mania stuff will come to an end relatively soon, but timelines for that are always just weird. There's never any good way to really gauge that. But yeah, I mean, I'll be getting back to the grind a bit more with the content. I think this month of December currently. Not sure when this podcast will get put out, but in January as well. I'll still be getting more and more back into the standard of where I've been, but I've been in a weird spot of like not wanting to get on Halo, but like I also feel kind of guilty because it's like I should be streaming, but I need to try to take a break. So I was like just day in, day out. But I'll be getting back into that rhythm anyway very soon, and that'll just be it. That'll be the standard like is used to. Just the normal content you can expect from me.
All right, that sounds like a plan. I do believe this will go live in January. Kind of depends on a few other people that I've got lined up and what their schedules look like. But I'm planning January 11th ish. If it's not up on January 11th, comments will let me know, I'm sure. But anyway, for once again, I thank you so much for coming on. Anybody who has made it this far in the podcast, I appreciate you. We appreciate you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, morning, or evening, wherever you're watching or listening. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.